Okay, good day everyone. Right now I'll be discussing the use of array in C++. Okay, if you're not familiar what is an array, well, we will discuss it in details from basic up to the advanced problem, and we will try to solve a specific problem using the array technique. But let's start knowing and understanding an array. Okay, so when you want to think about an array, it's like we are trying to make a declaration. We're going to initialize and access the array elements in C++ programming. And I can give you based on an example. Let's say the problem is about you want to give grades to students. Let's say a class, okay? Let's say a class has 30 students, okay, and we need to store the grades, okay. the, okay, again, the class has 30 students and we need to store the grades to these 30 students one by one. So instead of okay, instead of creating 30 separate variables, we can simply create an array. How are we going to do that? So in this case, when you start writing a program, you can actually declare it. If it is a double or a float, let's say if it's float, first thing that you need to consider is identify first the data type. And then I'm going to put here the grade, which is name of our array. Then followed here the element or the index size by putting inside the bracket. Okay, let's say if there's 30, then so it means equivalent to 30 students. So that's the maximum size. And we are using the float data type here. So the size and the type of the arrays cannot be changed after it is being declared. So take note on this part. Once that you have declared it and indicated the size, you cannot change the declaration. Okay, so means it is fixed. So the syntax for creating a single array, because there is also a two-dimensional array, and our example here is a single dimensional array, and the syntax for this is actually like this. Okay, you have to take note first. Start up with the name of data type, followed by name of an array, and then followed by the array size. Okay, then semicolon. This is how you're going to write the data type. You have to remember this format, and we call this as an syntax. Okay, I hope it is clear, and if you have some clarification with regards to array, you can try to review again and read. Okay, now going back to our example, okay, you have to remember when you access the elements in an array, It is actually associated with a number. Okay, so the number here is known as an array index. So we can access those elements of an array using the indices. Okay, so how can we illustrate it? What does it mean by indexes? Right, let me just illustrate it for the meantime. Let's say you have some, okay, this is your memory, assuming this is your memory storage. And we're going to divide this by indices like that. And how many numbers that we have? Let's say there should be some specific value here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, these are the numbers or any values that is being stored in an index. And the way we read this is actually in the index 0, the first position, and then this is in the second index. But instead of saying this is 2, but we have to start it from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and we call this option as array members. Okay, call this as an array members. Now, how does the array members being declared? Okay, assuming this is written as like this. Example, I'll just write it down below. Like, let's say the variable is x, then this is assigned to like that. 0, okay, then x at 1, sorry, and then x bracket, then 2, and it, and so on. Okay, we call this as again an array members. Okay, the basis for this is using this format. The way you can read that, assuming the variable name of your array is x, and below here, which is the, again, the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are what we call array indices. Okay. Again, there's supposed to be, I'll be writing here x like that. Okay, assuming, and another bracket here is hex. So I just put it here this way. And if you're going to put it with this option 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, these are what we call array indices. Okay, I'll just write here indices. Okay. Then what's the difference between the two? The array members should have the specific variable names or array names just like this. Our array names is x, and the indexes or array indexes just simply by adding 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 as the way we read it. Okay, I hope you can remember that. Okay, you have to take note. There are a few things to remember. The indexes array start with a 0, meaning, okay, and start with a 0. When we say 0, meaning this can be start with like this, a variable. Then 0 is what we call the first element stored at index 0. Okay. Yeah. These are the things that you need to remember And if the size of an array is n, meaning we don't know, then the last element is stored at index n minus 1. Okay. So in this example, let's say in a previous example, wherein we have created, okay, what we created actually adding the 5 indices. Okay, let me just draw it again so you can remember. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I'll just write it down again. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I just have to add another one to make it 5. Okay, now here the last element is this one, index 5, but the size of this is actually 6. Why it's 6? Because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and if again, if the size is n, therefore we store the last element at index n minus 1. Okay, and our last element here in our example, if we're going to use the identified array members, therefore our array members for this is x bracket 5, assuming our array name is x. For this case, our array member of our last element is x bracket 5. So the elements of an array have consecutive addresses. Okay, for example, we're going to start the address at array member, which is 0. Let's say the value for this is 2124. Okay, the value for this option is 2124. Okay, and then the value for the array index of which is another number, but this is for x0. Okay, let me just illustrate it. X referring to first index, which is referring to 1. Then it will be assigned to that. Okay, now that's how you're going to do it. Let's say the way you initialize it, you need to understand the size of the element. Okay, you have to declare and initialize it. Okay, how are you going to do it? Okay, when you declare, say declare and initialize it, the initialize the array should be like this. If you have the value means fixed value, let's say x is your variable name for your array, then the maximum size is 6. Then the elements would be example 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, then n. So if you're going to put this inside our memory, can be illustrated this way. Like, let me just have, okay, make it bigger. Okay, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. So we have here the 6 elements. Then I will try to divide it. Okay, let me just finish off this one. So our array values for this option would be, this becomes, let's say this is x, like that, and this one is x, then 1, and so on. Oops, should be x, then 2, and so on. Okay, how you going to make, when time if you will be asked what's the value of, you will be asked what's the value of, say, x1, then x0, and x2. You will be asked what would be the value for this. So by just looking at there, equivalent for this would be equivalent to, what's the value of 1, which is 2. Oh, I, 2, then 0, which is 1, and then the value of, and I remember 2 would be 3. Okay, so referring to this, and the 1 is referring to this option, and then 3 referring to this option. Okay, so that's to remember. I hope you will be able to comprehend and understand this option. Okay, now let's have some scenario. Let's say before we start writing our code, let's have some scenario wherein, say, int x, then let's say 6, and the value of there are only, uh, 3. Okay, 3, let's say 10. Oops, this should be not period. 10, and then 5. Okay, now the question, the array x has a size of 6. Okay, however, we have initialized here with only 3 elements, which is the 3, okay, 3, 10, and 5. So in this case, the compiler will assign a random values to the remaining places. So what are the remaining places? Which is referring for the index, since this is 0, 1, 2, then index 3, 4, 5. So those are the remaining places. So oftentimes, this random value is simply replaced by 0. Okay. So for that case, what will happen now? If we're going to put it into our, okay, let's do it again. I deleted it. So x, let's say 6, and then the value here, again 3, 10, 5. And if we're going to put it inside the memory of the computer, say I want to 3, 10, 5. Okay, so if we're going to put here into the boxes, assuming this is our memory of our computer, since this is index 0, then 1, then 2, So the remaining values will be stored as 0. Okay, like that. Will be created as 0. Okay, that's how it goes. When you only have 3 elements inside your array, but then your maximum size is 6. So in this case, the 3, 10, and the 5 will be stored in our memory. Then those with remaining places will be replaced with a 0. So the empty array members are automatically assigned with the value 0. Okay, so it will be assigned with 0. Take note of that. Okay, now the question is, how can we insert and print the array element? Okay, let's say our declaration. Okay, let me just, let's say our declaration like this. Okay, int, say, grade. I had a maximum of 5 here, and I'm going to put here the grade, let's say 90, 89, 89, 28, 80. I keep on typing that. Then 92. So how many numbers you got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there are 5 numbers now. Now we're going to change the element, change the fourth element to 85. Okay, so how are we going to do it? Well, just simply type here grade and then 4, not the fifth element. Okay, I mean 3. Sorry, should be 3. And let's say I'm going to put here 85. Okay, how does it mean? So we're talking here this is the fourth element, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the fourth element, which is the 80, referring to this one. But then since we count this as 0, 1, 2, 3, therefore you need to put in your array member with the value of 3, because we want to replace the 80 with 85. That's why you put here 3. But then the way we read that, it's actually in the fourth element, which is referring to 80. Okay, this one referring to 80 as our fourth element in the list of values inside this particular array named grade 5. Okay, now the next thing that we need to do is, let's say we want to take the input from our user. Okay, this time let's say we're going to take the input from the user, then we will store the value at third position. Okay, now in this case we will type here cn. Let's say we will use again the grade, then we put here 2 instead. Okay, meaning we will assign it and to the, okay, what is grade 2 referring? Again, 0, 1, 2, which is referring to 78. We're going to put a value for that case. So that's one example. Right. Now let's proceed to another example here. Okay, I'll just type here. Let's say we're going to take the input from the user, then we're going to insert the value at end position. Okay, what does that mean? End position, meaning on the last part, because we don't know how are we going to do that. What would be the command? Type in cn, then a grade, which is still referring to our original array name, grade, and then in the bracket type here, let's say in your iteration for your looping would be assigned to I, then with a 1, then bracket, close it, colon. We're going to add more example on this part later. For now, I'm just trying to give you the theory part so you will be able to understand it. Now, if we want to print the first element, you just simply type in cout, then display here grade, then bracket 0. Okay, then the 90 will be displayed in our array. And if you want to print the last part of the element, okay, if you want to print the nth element of the array, then simply type here cout, so want to display it grade bracket I minus 1, and you will be able to print the last element of the array. Later, we're going to apply this in a problem where we're going to ask the user to enter the number of values want to enter, and then we will be determining or display the first element and the last element out of those. Let's say there are 5 values. Okay, so we're going to have an example of that and try to be familiar with the command. Okay, this is for the last element, this is for the first element. Okay, I hope it's clear now.